Another really useful DOM algorithm is the isContainedBy function, which determines if a node is contained within another node. And this is another example that happens all the time in real-world DOM usage. The way the algorithm works, the isContainedBy function is given two parameters. The first parameter is the node that we want to see if it is contained within somewhere. And the test node is either a specific instance of a node that we want to see if it's the container, or it's a string that illustrates the name of a type of node that we want to see if it contains the first argument. For example, we could pass in an instance of a node here, and then for oTestNode, we can give it a string like body or div, and this function will return true if the first argument is contained within a node of that type. Or we can pass it a specific instance of a node, in which case the function will return true if the first argument was contained within the specific node specified by the second argument. So the way it works is, regardless of whether we're testing for strings or objects, we start off by declaring a temporary node, and we set that to be the parent node of the node that we're checking, the first argument. And then while that node is not null, we, in the case of strings, check to see if the node name is equal to the string that we were given. And if they match, we return true, because we found a match in that case. Otherwise, we just set the temp node to be the temp node's parent, and we keep doing that inside the while loop. Now, eventually, parent node is going to be null because there's no more parents left, and that will cause this to be set to null, which will cause the while loop to terminate. And if that happens, then this return false statement gets executed. In the case of a specific object instance, the same thing is done, except instead of comparing the node name of the temporary node, we just compare the two object instances to see if they match each other. Okay, so let's take a look at a live example in the code to see how it works. Okay, here we are in the code. This is the same code that we've been using for the previous examples. Here's my string representing the sample document, and it's the same as the examples we've been using so far. And this is the function we need to write here. This is called isContainedBy. And when my window loads, there's a couple of tests that we're going to run. First, we're going to get a reference to the G tag, which if you look in the string up here, you'll see that G is contained within inside B, which is contained within inside C, which is contained within inside B, which is contained within inside A, which is contained within the document element. So we'll get the G tag, and then we'll see if it's contained by a node of type B. We'll test it against a node of type H, and then we'll test it against a specific instance, in this case, the document element itself. So this one should evaluate to true, because G is in fact inside an element of type B. We're not comparing a specific instance. This one should evaluate to false, because G is not inside a node of type H. H is way over here, so it's not containing G. This one should return true as well, because the G tag is in fact inside this document. So let's go ahead and write the function. So we start off by checking to see if we're doing strings or objects. We'll write if type of oTestNode is equal to string. Then we're comparing node types. Else if type of oTestNode equal to object, then we're comparing a specific object instance. All right, let's do the string case first. So we're going to write var oTempNode. So we start off by getting the parent of the node we were given. And while that's not null, so while we have a node to test against, we're going to keep on doing these comparisons. So we'll see in the case of strings, if the name of this node matches the name that we were given to look for, then congratulations, we've got a match, and we return true. Otherwise, we just get the next parent in the chain, and that's eventually going to run out of parents, so if that happens, then we return false. Now, for the object case, it's pretty much exactly the same algorithm, except for the name comparison. We're not going to be comparing names. What we're going to be comparing is the specific instance. So we'll take the node name off. Let's go back and take a look. So this should return true, and then false, and then true. Let's see what happens. Okay, so the first one is true because G is inside B. And there's false because G is not inside H. And there's true because G is inside the document. So let's go check the Firefox case. And there it is, true, and false, and true. Same result. So now you know how to check to see if a node is contained by another node, either a type or a specific instance. Let's move on to the next example.